The first two episodes of Ahsoka are here, and did we just witness the coldest Dodge Twin incoming lightsaber ever? I think so. With the groundwork and foundations being laid down in these first two episodes, it's safe to say that it looks like this Star Wars spin-off show has the potential within it to be the strongest one in a while, especially with the strength that these first two episodes had, with extremely interesting characters such as Sabine Wren, Baylan Skoll, Ahsoka, and Shin, along with a story that looks set to bring devastation and a potential war. Everything is quite literally on the line, so let's recap, break down, and explain all that there was to take away from these first two episodes. So let's get into it. Here is Ahsoka episode 1 and 2 ending explained. Just to let you know, this video will contain spoilers. Episode 1. This was such a fantastic way to kickstart off the season, opening with Baylan Skoll and Shin Hati releasing Morgan Elsbeth from captivity and killing everybody in their pathway in order to get the job done. It showed just how ruthless the pair were and highlighted the strength that they had, along with the theme that's going to be present throughout the entirety of the show, stopping at no limits in order to free the target. With it being titled Master and Apprentice, it was clear to see why. Plus, the title also linked to the fact that we were going to be later on seeing Ahsoka reuniting with her former Padawan Sabine Wren. Both Republic and Empire have an interest in the map that Ahsoka found. Ahsoka believed it to hold the location as to where Ezra was, and Baylan and Morgan believed it to hold the locations where Imperial Grand Admiral Thrawn was banished to. If Thrawn were to be found, his presence would be the very thing which would unite all of the individuals that were loyal to the evil Empire and cause them to express their true beliefs, and would ultimately kickstart another war, as sides would be formed and the unifying peace that's trying to be recreated would start to show cracks within it. So Ahsoka wanted to keep it to herself in order to prevent that, but also because she believed that it would point to the location of Ezra within it too. We saw that Ahsoka needed the assistance of her former Padawan Sabine Wren, an individual who had not kept up with their training and was a bit alternative in the way that they approached things, fleeing authority and keeping herself to herself, which was best represented by the fact that she lived way outside of the city on her own in the middle of the desert and several feet up in the air. When Ahsoka arrived, it was clear to see the tension that was there between the both of them, as they had unfinished business from the past when they were together. They hadn't seen each other for years. However, Sabine agreed to try to find the key to the map as it was impossible for Ahsoka to get into it. It was once she found the key to the map that we saw that Shin had been tasked with finding the map and bringing it to Baylan and Morgan. This was where we got the third lightsaber duel in the first episode. Sabine was definitely rusty in her approach, but we were seeing apprentice v apprentice. Personally, I loved this duel, and I thought it was the best one of the entire episode. Shin Hati is so emotionless in the way that she presents herself, and it really does feel as though she personifies evil. The striking white blonde hair contrasted with the dark hood and the red saber is such a perfect look, and it really encapsulates the darkness that's present within her. Within this duel, Sabine was hit in the stomach with Shin's saber, which ultimately meant that Shin was able to get away with the map before Ahsoka arrived, leaving us to wonder if she was going to survive or not. It was kind of obvious that they wouldn't kill her off just after one episode, but it was a good cliffhanger for sure. Also within this episode, we learned about the Witches of Dathomir. Dathomir was the planet that Morgan Elsbeth came from, and I feel we're going to be learning more about the Witches' inclusion in this show as the episodes go on, something which hasn't really been a focus before. We didn't learn that much about Baylan Skoll in this episode, but we found out that he disappeared at the end of the Clone Wars, where he had risen to the level of a Jedi Knight and managed to survive the Jedi Purge that took place. From there, he went on to become a mercenary, which is where I imagine his descent into darkness began. Within this show, he's assisting Morgan Elsbeth in the finding of Thrawn, because he believes that himself and his apprentice Shin will have an immense amount of power like nothing else when he is eventually found. This first episode was such a good way to kickstart off the season. It felt like its own movie contained into one episode. The pacing of it was smooth and there was action embedded within lots of key moments, starting and finishing with it. The choreography of the lightsaber duels was something that I was also extremely impressed with, and this first episode didn't even contain the best of them all because there was an even better one in the second episode. The writers really laid down the foundation for the season in this first episode and I was deeply impressed. The slight awkwardness that was present between Ahsoka and Sabine was something that I thought was handled extremely well too, And despite Ahsoka not being around Sabine for a long while, the care that she still had ingrained within her was something that was extremely relatable, and it showed a somewhat human side to the character, contradicting what she was saying to General Syndulla on several occasions. It had me stoked for episode 2. This episode was definitely shorter than the first, and I think that's fair. Hammering 2 one-hour episodes to sit through in one go for the audience can be a lot, so coming in at just around 40 minutes, it was definitely digestible. Within this episode, we immediately saw that Sabine managed to survive the wound that she got from being hit with Shin Saber, and she was ready to help Ahsoka retrieve the map back so that she could assist in finding Ezra. It's clear to see the care that they have for Ezra because they're quite literally putting their life on the line to find him. There was a really important line in this episode which was spoken by Huyang when they said, "The only time you're wasting is your own." This was spoken to Sabine as she was getting ready to leave the hospital. She was conflicted in what she wanted to do because of the awkward relationship that she had with Ahsoka, but I feel that was the very thing that led her to commit to going with Ahsoka right at the end of the episode. That, and also the fact that she wanted to find Ezra, because as she looked at the painting on the wall, that was the main focus as she walked off. There was a sense of hurt still present there because when Huyang was handing her back her lightsaber, she was committed to still saying that it was Ezra's, despite the fact that she had made her own customizations to it, so the hurt was still present. There was a focus in this episode where Ahsoka and General Syndulla went to find out some information on Corellia, which was retrieved from the droid's head, and they saw that there were supporters of the Empire which were essentially in hiding and working in secret. This was where the climax of the episode occurred, and we met Marok, a former Imperial Inquisitor who was working alongside Baylan, Morgan, and Shin. This was a duel that was just incredible to watch. We had amazing choreography and twists in the battle that just kept occurring, especially when Marok's turned into a double saber and then threw it towards her and she managed to avoid it. Marok didn't utter a word and only fought, so it does leave a lot of questions around their identity, something which I feel we will later find out more about as the season develops. Whilst the duel was taking place, General Syndulla managed to get a tracking device onto the ship that they escaped in, which was tracked to planet Sietus in the Dinab systems, a place which I imagine we're going to be going to in the next episode. Right at the end of episode 2, we saw that Baylan mentioned how it was going to be a shame to kill Ahsoka, and with the connection between Baylan and Anakin Skywalker and him knowing that he thought highly of her once upon a time, it's going to be very interesting if we see the both of them on screen against one another. Episode 2 was just as good as the first. It was shorter, digestible, and was filled with action. It even had a moment where it felt like I thought I was watching Treasure Planet for a second. This has only had 2 episodes, but I think it's safe to say that it's going to be an extremely exciting season of the show, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what's going to happen. Baylan is a character that I'm particularly interested in, especially with him once being an established Jedi Knight. I wonder if there will be a sense of conflict within his mind. He seems so powerful, and I feel we've only just scratched the surface with him. I'm looking forward to seeing how this story is going to develop. Bring on the next episode. So, there you have it, Ahsoka episode 1 and 2 ending explained. What did you think of the first 2 episodes? Leave a comment down below, and don't forget to subscribe. I'll see you next time.